This year marks the 50th anniversary of German-Israeli relations, of diplomatic relations, which is quite astounding, thinking of the history of our two nations that has one of the strongest partnerships. So I thought maybe perhaps you can speak to that a little.
First of all, let me thank you for inviting me. That was wonderfully read, and I'm glad to be here to discuss with you. I haven't been here for such a long time. I've started to make my rounds, and this is the first time I'm across the college. So thank you for inviting me. And of course, when you ask me how did it all come? The red color of the strawberries under the fingernails of that poor and innocent young boy, you already get a sense that this is a horrible story. So you get very into this story, and it's striking. It's hard to believe that people have tried to stay in their splendid isolation of bone china teacups and all the little luxuries they had. Of course, not breathing the clean air of Germany, but yet, with all this little luxury they had, right beside the factory, which is not what is happening in this factory. So this is really striking, and all the more it is so remarkable that this year, 70 years after Auschwitz was liberated, and 50 years after Germany and Israel started a new chapter in its relations with a lot of second thought on the side of the state of Israel and all Jews in Israel and outside. And of course, for someone like me, born more than 15 years after the war ended, it is it's like a gift, an invaluable gift, that this kind of relationship could grow, that there was again trust building up, we got to know each other a little more, and we've come a long way, and yet we know this will never be a normal relationship. It is a special relationship, and I think shall always remain, with the memory of the Shoah always present. We always have to think of this blood under the fingernails, and yet have to reach out and offer our hands to each other, and look for a way forward into the future. So it's a very moving story, very well presented. Really, playing intonation and wonderfully played.
How did I do on Stormfjord? Boy, is that a tough word. I've had to say that 80,000 times. I stumbled in rehearsal because I do not know. My brother's fluent, but I do not know any German. And I thought I couldn't get my tongue around it at all.
Well, it's not a word that's easily. I don't know so much about the play and the author, but maybe it's also a symbol of what grew out of this in the German Israel a Jewish village?
That was a question the other night at one of the places we presented this. Someone said, "What do you think that the strawberries represent?" And I said, "Well, just as you did, I said, I don't know what the author's intention was, but it seems as if because they're so huge, they're somehow mythical in their size, that she's trying to give this feeling of hope and the fact that something can grow out of an awful situation." That's what.
Savyon is quite integral to the 50-year celebration, actually. She was asked by the German foreign minister to come in. She actually gave the opening remarks at the official opening in Berlin last year. So she's very invested in it. As an author, constantly on trips between Tel Aviv and Berlin, and actually all over. Always at the Frankfurt Book Fair. She has a very close relationship to the German people, and we always, I always say to her, it's kind of amazing that is the case, and I think it's from, the open hands of both the Germans and the Israelis to embrace each other, which is an odd. History makes for strange bedfellows, it's what Shakespeare wrote, and it is certainly strange that way. But I always laugh because I travel a lot, and the two groups you always find traveling in Latin America and everywhere are Israelis and Germans. So we always find each other befriending one another. I think it's quite amazing. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts, and if you have any questions.
Well, again, also thank you for a wonderful reading. It was impeccable, and it was unforgettable. I think we all will remember this for the remainder of our lives. I also want to highlight the artwork on this invitation, sort of ruling the beauty of the discussion that we have right now, the challenge of it. The purpose of our class is not to memorize or learn about historic facts. It's not about 6 million Jews that died and many others. It is really more about what did the people that were part of this process, both on the side of the victims as well as the side of the perpetrators, really experience. And I find the reading challenging because it allows for a dichotomy of people that knew and others that didn't. The recent revelations about Hearst and his family and so forth in German press bring this a little bit more to reality, clearly indicate that it was impossible not to know what was going on. Whereas the psychology of the whole play is that certain people, for example, the wives, were so thankful for the dresses they got and all those wonderful things and all that kind of thing. But was it really possible to hide the reality of where those things came from, or the reality of what was happening in the factory behind the wall? What would you, as particularly the actors, think about it?
Well, that's the wonderful thing about what we get to do, and that is you have to look for support in the text for what your character is thinking. And other than the fact that she's obviously in a quite loveless marriage, that a husband has only ever said, "I love you" once, and the time where women rarely worked outside the home, so she's not the happiest camper except for her son. But there's nothing in the text that supports that she knows. What I find interesting in the text is her supposed friend, Helena, knows a lot and doesn't share it. And I think what's interesting about the piece, and maybe why she's written it this way is because it seems unbelievable that you could have something just outside your garden wall that you really didn't know about. It just provokes such discussion about, I mean, there had to have been some people who didn't know. And I think what's difficult for us is in modern times with all of our technology and instant communication, we forget that all that information was coming either by radio or by newspaper, and it was very delayed. So it was coming in bits. So as the actress, I do believe that she didn't know. I have to believe that because there's nothing in the text to say. So that's what she gave me.
And I think that is clearly the provocation of the author. You said you want to disturb a little more. Nice discussion. Exactly, I think she wants to disturb us and again remind us. Could it have been possible at all?
And don't feel badly about stirring it up because
No,
everywhere we do this, everywhere we do this,
But
if someone stands up, many people stand up and say, it's impossible. It's
But
impossible.
it's meant to be a provocation, and quite rightly so, because you see this wonderful, shiny wall, the little model. Yet, the strawberry bird creeps into the trees. So, you can be in doubt whether she knows or not. You say there is no clear evidence in the piece itself that she must have known. But there's this little down creep there into our heads at night, into her head at night, and it leaves us with this ambiguous feeling. Did she know or not? But in the end, of course, it doesn't matter because the fact is still a fact. And the feelings that she expresses when she gets back to Germany, at least that was then my conclusion, is she now she's quite happy to be away from that all. So she has a bigger distance, she can push it even further away. I've never been important, I've never seen it, it was never there, it never happened. So that's the provocation.
I find it psychologically extremely interesting what you just said, just to conclude this little bubble here. I mean, we might be able to know more things than we know. There's no doubt in today's state of brain research and knowledge that we experience actually a lot of things consciously, but that never become aware of them. It's unusual and contradictory this appears. So yes, I find this also very provoking, the reading, because it might very well be that you knew and you didn't know at the same time. This schizophrenic attitude towards issues that we can't handle is not uncommon, also in less tragic circumstances. I found this very interesting what you said.
I guess my question would be,
please tell us your name.
I'm Maggie.
Hi.
Very happy to be here. I guess my question is, I mean, she saw the frostbitten feet, she saw the condition of this girl, she saw the wounds on her head from the haircut, and then she had dreams about blood under her fingernails. Do you think somewhere in the back of her mind she knew that, like, on some subconscious level, I mean, and even in the dream, her son says, oh no, it's just strawberry juice, but do you think that could have suggested that she knew on some level?
Well, they say that dreams are where you're trying to figure things out and trying to put things together. But like I said, as the actor, you have to go with the text. What I personally think, away from this piece is that it's pretty amazing. There could be someone who didn't know. But if you're presenting the piece, you have to hold to your character's point of view. Otherwise, things get all muddy and wishy-washy, and you're not helping the text and you're not helping the audience. It's better just to go 100% with what she's given you, and then just let it stir things up, nicely. I also think that if she hadn't been sent away from Poland, I think her motherly instincts were taking over, and she was going to assist this child in any way that she possibly could. Whether she knows or she doesn't know, she sees a child in need. She starts with socks, she says she's going to go to sweaters, she's going to get a dress for her mother. So that was the instinct that was taking over inside of her.
I have a question, well, sort of related then. So I found it interesting because in the text it does seem at the beginning that she's talking about they want to shelter Ludwig, or her son, from behind, the things behind the wall. Okay, those are not, that makes it invisible. And then she knows she has to shelter him from something. There's something there she doesn't want her child to see. And I find this interesting in the sense of, as a whole, and now my question for you is that, for the council, is today, how does that relate to currently in Germany? How do you feel do you think there's an attitude amongst Germans about, I have absolutely no idea, so I'm just curious, how did they look back at the Holocaust? Is there this thought of, if it's not there, out of sight, out of mind, or is it something that, as Israel, as guys are building relations, that they've had to face?
So, of course, there are always people who are ignorant, who, even worse, who deny what happened. But this is clearly a very tiny minority. I think everybody is very well aware of it, and yet, if you look at Germany 25 years into reunification, there's also a strong desire. It is the 50th year of our relationship, new relationship with Israel, that we want to look forward and also want Jews around the world, also Jewish importance, in particular Jews around the world, realize what Germany today represents, how Germany feels is its role in the world, how Israel comes into this, and how we can also look forward together. So the memory of what has happened during this darkest era of humanity, you can say, will always be there, and it allows us also to reach out and move forward, which is very important. And I myself feel, I lived in Berlin for the last 3.5 years before I came. That's a few months ago. And I made the move from Bonn to Berlin back in 1999 when the seat of our parliament and the government was relocated from Bonn to Berlin. And I still remember the many doubts in the German side, but also many people around Europe and elsewhere. Well, is that a good movement going back to Berlin? How do you feel about this? And nowadays, to be a Hebrew again in the streets of Berlin, to see this very diverse and rich cultural life, Jewish cultural life, Jews from Israel moving to Berlin, artists, young people, that really shows me that we have entered a phase that is yet another new phase. It's very encouraging.
All part of the colony for a year. So it is kind of fascinating to see this. And there's a Jewish Cultural Week happening in Germany. And there's wonderful programs like Germany Close Up that the German government supports to have Jews come and see Germany for the first time. And yeah, I remember my first, I'm the grandson of Holocaust survivors, and I went to Germany for the first time in 2009 with a friend of mine who was a German diplomat who was stationed in Madrid, and you can't escape the history of the streets. I mean, it's just sort of everywhere you walk, it's there, which I thought must be quite cumbersome for the people living there. I thought I could never live in this city because, for a long period of time, just because of the amount of monuments that there are there, for remembrance, and that there are these stepping stones. If any of you get to visit Germany, it's actually all over Europe, that are gold, that are outside of the homes of those either who survived or those who were killed, that says, somebody lived here and this is what happened to them. And you keep running into this. It's like, sort of disturbs your day. And I remember during the year that I spent there that I could never get past that. I mean, I knew which streets to avoid with all of them because it was like I can't walk past this every time. We had a question here, and then John, and then there. Yeah.
Yes. Me or?
Yes. Yes.
I thought that one of the more interesting characters in the play was maybe it's just his friend's naivete. I'm just curious what your take on, I guess, Wolfgang as a character is.
My
We
take on
talked
him
a lot
is,
about him.
I love him because he's doing his duty, but it's obvious that a very disturbed heart about it, which is why I think he's drinking so much. And we discussed it. We believe that her parents were killed, and for some reason he or someone higher decided to let her exist and to not disturb her, to allow her to live. So that kind of softness, it's such a dichotomy with what's going, his daily job. But that's why I like him, because he's obviously very conflicted.
Well, I find it difficult to like him in that sense.
Yeah.
He's a cynic.
Yeah.
Yeah.